In this video, we're going to learn how to use the factory method pattern of design pattern principles with Apex. Now, why do we use design patterns? Design patterns helps to increase the efficiency and readability of the code that we write. Now, Apex is the backend language that we use in Salesforce, which, like Java, mostly works with classes and objects. We create objects of the several classes that we create on Salesforce to meet the business requirements. Now, whenever we create an object of one class within the other directly, it creates a tight coupling between those classes. What do we mean by tight coupling? Tight coupling creates a strong dependency between the classes. This means if we make change in any of this class, we'll most likely will have to do that in the other class as well. Now this creates a problem. This decreases the code maintainability and affects its scalability. For this, we have the specific creational design patterns that helps us avoid this tight coupling by hiding the logic that is used for creating the objects. Now, creational design patterns is a part of the design pattern principles that we have. It has a lot of techniques like the factory method pattern, the abstract factory pattern, the builder pattern, the prototype pattern, the singleton pattern. In this video, we are going to concentrate on the factory method pattern. Now, what is the factory method pattern? So, factory method pattern is a creational design pattern used to create objects of classes from the same family without knowing the exact class name and design time. Now, what do we mean by that? So basically, like a factory is supposed to produce goods, right? So in this case, this factory is supposed to give you with the objects of the classes having the same family. What do we mean by the same family? Which does basically the same type of tasks, but the tasks are different from one another. We will come back to this slide once we get on to coding to understand it better. The advantage of using this factory method pattern is that it delegates the creation of an object to another class and provides a good level of abstraction. Abstraction, as we know, is one of the basic fundamentals of object-oriented programming. And this factory method pattern helps us to leverage it. Now, enough of these slides. Let's move on to Salesforce. And let's see some of the code and let's do some hands-on. Okay. Now, I have a few part of the code already written, but the most of it I'll be doing it live over here. Now let us take a scenario and drive the code based on it. So let us consider that we are working for Netflix, right? You're all aware of Netflix. Now, what I have done is that on the account object, I have created a custom field known as subscription type. So in our use case, we are considering that there are a lot of subscription types in Netflix, and based on them, there are certain things like the number of screens and the number of shows are depends on the type of subscription that we have on Netflix. Now this is going to be the controller that we are going to use. We are not going to have any front end for this, but I hope you understand. So this is the Aura enabled method. So if we had a lightning component, this is the method that is going to be called with the account ID. With that account ID, currently, since there is just one basic subscription we have, so we are querying the ID and the subscription type of that account. If the account list.size is greater than 0, that means the account exists. We create a object of this Netflix basic subscription. We add it in a map of string and integer and we return the map. Sounds simple enough, right? So if we move to this anonymous window and I execute this, you would see that since it's a basic subscription, the screen is 1 and the shows are 1500, like I have mentioned here. Okay. Now things are going smooth. Now imagine in a few days time, Netflix starts with another subscription, say a premium subscription. So what do we do now? We only have option for basic subscription. So for premium subscription, there are two things that we can do. We can either go to this class and change some of the logic over here to see if the subscription type is basic or premium, or the better way is to create another class. Why? Because we have this principle, right, that one class should be doing a single class, should be having a single responsibility. Now, keeping that in mind, let's create a new class. Let's name it Netflix Premium Subscription. Now we have created a class. The methods are going to be basically the same. And let's say for this, the number of screens are 2, and the number of rows is set, number of shows is set to 2000. Right? Now we need to add some conditional logic over here. We cannot blindly use this basic subscription, right? So what do? We check here if the account is present and the one at the 0th position dot subscription type, it is the custom field that we created, equals to say basic. We do this, else let's just keep it else at, because currently we are considering there are just two scenarios, basic and a premium, right? So instead of this, we use Netflix Premium Subscription. We populate these values. Let's change this to NPS. And I think it should save. Yeah, so it has saved, right? So if we go here and execute this again, now this account that I have created currently has a subscription type of basic. Let me run it with basic once. Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, this will be execute highlighted. So it says one screen with 1500 shows. And let me just go here and change it to. Now this, for the purpose of this demo, I have created it as a text field. You can create it as a pick list, that would be better, but that's not the purpose of this demo. So let's execute this again. Two screens, 2000 shows. So far also we haven't seen much of a problem. The problems that we had initially is that these classes are strongly coupled with one another. Next, say a few days later, Netflix comes with two more subscription plans. We already have a basic and a premium. Now Netflix decide to come with a gold and a platinum plan. So if we follow the current principle, then we'll have to create two more classes, right? Let's do it. Netflix gold subscription and Netflix platinum subscription. Now the principles of these classes are going to be the same. For the purpose of this video, I'm keeping the methods simple, but in a real context, you obviously understand, right? There will be much more methods, and the complexity of these methods will also increase. So let's save this. Now we have created this 4 different classes: basic subscription, premium subscription, gold subscription, and platinum subscription, and each classes follow the single responsibility principle. But do you see, like, we are generating a problem for ourselves, right? Now for 2 it was okay. Now since we have added 4, now we need to keep on creating stuffs like this. Now if it's premium, then do this. If it's gold, then create a subscription of gold. If it's platinum, create a subscription of platinum. Now this will still work, but every time we add a new subscription, we need to make a lot of code changes here, and still the code are dependent on one another, right? So how do we come up with a solution to all this? Like this has created so many problems. Like every time a new subscriptions comes, we need to add this if else conditions, and this classes are more and more classes are getting strongly coupled to one another. One of the ways that if you see that all of these classes have the same methods, right? So we can create an interface and use these interfaces in these classes. So let's do that. So let's create a Apex class and name it, say, iNetflix subscription. Let's change it to an interface and put the methods that we have. So we have this integer get number of screens and integer get number of shows. Let's save it. Now this is an interface, right? And we know that interface is basically like a contract. So it can only have the method signatures and we cannot populate the method over here. Now for the remainder of our classes that we have, we just only need to implement this interface because we already have these methods, right? So what we do is implements iNetflix subscription. Save this. And similarly in rest of our classes also, now we have 4 different classes over here. We have all taken down from this, implemented this iNetflix subscriptions. Now what does this do? This gives us an option to, instead of creating these objects over here, what we can do is we can create a instance of this here. We can, where did it go? We can create here and put it as, say, subscription and assign it to null. You can do this outside over here also if you want, but let's do it here. Now we'll use this same object and we can create, we'll use the same variable to create objects of the several classes that we have, right? And here we'll be using this to get the number of screens, number of rows. On hindsight, we can take this word part out of the if else conditions as well. Now what does this do? Well, we have achieved two things. One thing is that since all of these classes that we have, we know implements this iNetflix subscription, we are sure that it has these two methods, get number of screens and get number of shows, right? So we have hidden the implementation logic. The implementation logic of this class is hidden. So this is a part that we had reflected over here. With the it delegates the creation of an object and provides a good level of abstraction. So if you come over here, so now we are aware that this classes, since there is a contract, has these functions, and it had to override these functions, but we can care less of the logic that is inside it, right? So we have given a good layer of abstraction over here. And we have also achieved a loosely coupled nature. It's not tightly coupled anymore, right? Now, we still have problems. Now, does that solve all our problems? Basically, it doesn't, right? Because in order to, whenever we create a new subscription model, so we'll have to still make changes to this controller, which we do not want to, right? This controller has nothing to do with the subscriptions. The purpose of this controller is to just get the values. So if I am adding a new subscription type, I need not make changes to this Netflix account controller. Now here comes, this is where we create a factory method, a factory class perhaps, which will, to this class will delegate the functionality to create the object and return it back to us. How do we do that? So let's create a class. Now let's name it Netflix subscription factory. Now it is going to have a method. It's going to be a static method, and it is going to return me a type of this iNetflix subscription interface. And let's name it get instance, and let's pass the subscription type as a parameter. Now all this logic that we had written over here, let's take it out. Let's put it here. Instead of, since we are already passing the subscription type, we do not need to check with the account. We'll directly have a check with the subscription type. And at the end, we'll return this. And does that make sense? So what we have done is, we have delegated the functionality of creating the object to this, our factory class, right? So on our main class, what we are going to do? We are going to call this, but how? So we are going to come over to our controller, and we do not need all these logics here. We are just going to call our factory method, our class. There is an error. Okay, right. And do Netflix subscription factory dot get instance and send subscription type as a parameter. Now this is how a factory method works. So now if I ever have to come up with a new class, a new subscription type, I do not need to make change to this Netflix account controller. I have this factory method where I am passing all the required conditions that I have, based on which the object will be created. For this particular example, we only have this subscription type. So I pass this subscription type as a parameter. My factory class does all the checking, creates an instance based on the type that I require, and pass it over here. So again, if I run this, you would see screens 2 shows 200. If I change this to gold, I'm not sure if I had changed that. Yeah, so I'll have to change this. So for gold, say the number of screens is 4 and it's 2500. For platinum, let's say number of screen is 5 and this is say 3000. So if I run this again, so I should be getting data based on the gold subscriptions that we have, right? So I hope this made sense, right? This is the factory method and how it works. Now, till here, the factory method example is done, but we can take it to the next level with Salesforce. How? Now, currently we have this still a limitation, right? So whenever we add a new subscription, we'll have to add values over here, right? So is there a way in which we can even not have to change this class? I don't want to make changes here as well. How do I do that? Before I get into this, I'll quickly jump back to the slide and talk about the first point. So it says used to create object of classes of the same family without knowing the exact class name at design time, right? So if I come over here, so this does not know the class name which is stated in the slide. We are just calling the factory class with the method and it's returning me the object, and we do not know the name of the class for which the object is created, and we do not care, right? So that is what is highlighted over here, without knowing the exact class name at design time. Anyways, let's move back to the enhancement that we were talking about. Now, how we have the liberty to increase the efficiency even further. In our current scenario, if a new subscription is added, we need to make changes to the Netflix subscription factory class that we create. Now, even if we do not want that, so what can we do? So one thing that we can do is we can create a custom setting. So I've already created a custom setting over here. I have named it a Netflix subscription and I have added a field known as class name. So if I see the records that I have over here, let me create a new view for you. Add both the name and the class name. I save it, say my view or something. Save it. You will see it is a map between the subscription type and the corresponding class that we have for that particular type. So in the future, if we have to create a new subscription, we'll just create a class and add to the map. Now, to leverage this, we need to do some changes over here. So at first, we'll have to get rid of all this. Say, I'll get rid of this for now. Okay, we need to leverage the custom setting that we created, right? So if I go to the custom settings and it's Netflix subscription _ C. So we'll create, say, a net sub and we will get use this get values method with the subscription type parameter that we have passed. Now this is going to there will be an error because subscription over here is not defined. Okay, so this is going to return the custom setting whose name matches with whatever we pass over here. If it's gold, it will return me the gold record. If it's something else, it will return it to me. So what does the error say? Variable does not exist. Okay, a space over here. This should solve this error. Yes. Now once I have that over here, we can use a Salesforce specific thing that we have is the type class, right? So what the type class does is that it has two methods. One is type dot for name. So this method returns a type of the equivalent string that is passed to it, right? So for that, I'll have to use this variable dot class name. I'll go back to the code once we finish it again to explain it in details again. Now what this does is that, so suppose I have passed gold. So if I pass gold, it will return me the record for this gold and the corresponding class name, which is Netflix Gold subscription. Now once I have that Netflix Gold subscription, I can create a type for that. This is basically Netflix Gold subscription. Once the type is there, we can use the another method of this type class, that is new instance. It creates a new instance of this specific type. Now what do? We take this iNetflix subscription, say name it as subscription. We use t dot new instance, and we'll have to explicitly type convert it into iNetflix subscription. So this should work. Now let's see what we have done and what are the benefits of this. The benefits of this is that we have removed the entire hard-coded part out of our code totally, right? Now our class, even the factory class, does not have anything hard-coded. So if we have to add a new subscription again, what we need to do? We need to create a class for it and record in this custom setting, and it will be taken care of, right? Before that, let me run this and see if this is still working. Let me run this. Yeah, it says screens for shows 2500, right? Now just for an example sake, let's create another subscription type, right? Let's create a diamond subscription type. So what we have to do for that? We'll have to create a class. Now I just want you to totally focus on the places that we are making changes, if we are at all making any changes in any of the existing classes that we have. So first we go to create new class. Let me copy it, class name from over here, and I'll change it. And let's name it to diamond, right? Let me copy this as well. And let's change this to 10. Let's change this to 5000, right? So far we have not made any changes in any of our existing class. We have just created a new class. Next, let's create a record for that in our custom setting. I'm sorry. Done. We have created a record and we have created a new class. We have not touched any of the existing classes. Now let me go to that record that I had created and change its type to diamond. Save this. Let me go to the anonymous window again and run this. And as you can see, we still get the values from the new subscription type that we created without having to change any of the classes. This is what loose coupling is. This is what the benefits of using factory method of object creation is. So I hope that made sense. Now if we come back to the slides, so where can we use this? So there are many ways where we can use this. This is not just for factory method, this is applied to all creational design patterns that we have. So one is in the Apex scheduler class, right? So if we directly instantiate the Apex class in a scheduler with the new keyword, then we know, right, the class is serialized and therefore locked out for further changes. Now this is not the case if we use a creational design pattern. We can use it in taste class to have multiple areas to create the taste data. We can create code libraries to only reveal their usage and not their actual implementation, right? We have done that, where we are hiding the logic. We can dynamically use it to dynamically create instances of a class based on configuration stored in custom settings. This is what we just did. So this, and there are other places also where you can leverage this, but these are something that comes to mind at the moment. So thank you for staying with me till the end of this video. I hope I was able to explain you how to leverage the factory method pattern in Apex. And in the next video, we are going to talk about abstract factory pattern. If you learned something from this video, a like would be much appreciated, and you can leave your comments and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.